I am here today with Carlos, the CEO and founder of Product School. Morning.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Likewise, I know it's so funny we haven't met in person yet, but we've been kind of working and living parallel lives for a long time. So we are going to get into it. You've built a really incredible community with Product School. You've also been a founder of a company. I'd love to know how growing a community is different from growing a product.
So when I started Product School, the goal was to create a community first. And I think that was the differentiator. And then from there, we found ways to create a business. But the whole idea of building a community first is that it can benefit many other businesses and, of course, the people in it.
Yeah. Did you start that community with the idea to sort of figure out what business could sustain it?
Well, I started a community that I wish I had when I was starting my career.
Yeah.
So this, in a way, was a community of one. And
Yeah.
I started reaching out to product leaders that I wanted to learn from and offering them opportunities to share some of that knowledge with others in different events or discussion forums. And then from there, we started growing one step at a time. Today, we are over 2 million members from all over the world.
Wow. Man, that's so cool. You must have changed so many people's lives with
Well,
starting this.
definitely, I hope so. And I'm very proud of that. And in a way, I had no idea when I started that there would be that much interest in product, right? That this
Yeah.
was a selfish solution to my own problem. And I'm glad that it also escalated to many other people and that they are finding value.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. With this community, you're super active on things like LinkedIn and you have a podcast. Are there channels for growth that you think growth folks are under investing in these days? And how do you see that changing over the next year or so?
Yeah, so for us, we've been using different channels at different stages of our community. So when I started in San Francisco, I was using channels such as Eventbrite or Meetup to organize
Mhm.
local events in person. I also used online discussion forums such as Quora or Reddit to start connecting with people, and then I would follow up with them via LinkedIn to create that additional touch point. And at some point that maxed out when we started scaling the business outside San Francisco
Mm.
into other cities within the US. We started looking into different platforms. For example, we also host a podcast, and that
Yeah.
was a good opportunity to kind of 10x the impact of some of the talks that were happening in person in different co-working spaces in San Francisco or New York or others. At some point, we started building communities, local communities outside the US, especially in Europe. So we also had to figure out different channels that kind of took us to that next level. And I remember at some point, social networks like Facebook started
Mhm.
offering a new feature called events.
Yeah.
Now that is a very common feature, but back in the day, it didn't exist. So we've been very interested in being the first movers every single time one of those big platforms release a new feature, because they're very
Mhm.
interested in pushing that feature, increasing the adoption. So by being the first movers, by being the first ones to create events there, we got a lot of benefits from the platform, also increasing distribution. So we did that with Facebook at some point, then LinkedIn followed suit. So we did the same. We started hosting our events on LinkedIn. Clubhouse, and not too long ago, was one of the pioneers launching audio events. So
Yeah.
we've been trying to ride those different waves as our community scales.
Yeah. What do you think of things like TikTok? Is that a good platform for you?
So for us, yes, I would say short clips is the next big move.
Yeah.
On TikTok, LinkedIn, or Instagram Reels and Snapchat, different ways for people to consume information in a very short form. YouTube Shorts is also huge for us.
Yeah. Man, cool. So, speaking of things that are new, now that AI has really taken off, and I saw that you added a certification for it on Product School, you're probably one of the first platforms to do that, I imagine. What are some of the emerging skills that PMs need to master in order to be competitive for a product manager role at an AI focused company?
Yeah, so at the very beginning, so when we started the company around 10 years ago, very few people knew what product management was all about. So the questions that we were receiving was more about, why do I need this? Is this just for high-tech companies? Is this just in Silicon Valley? And it's now so mainstream. We've realized that product managers, or every company is acting like a software company. Product managers are working in so many different type of industries, not just high-tech. And of course, they're everywhere, not just in San Francisco or other tech hubs. So the maturity of the market has evolved so much that now those skills have evolved. There is more awareness, and that means there's also more competition. So PMs are at the forefront of innovation in many cases. So yes, back in the day, maybe knowing a little bit of code and a little bit of design would be enough. Now PMs are expected to know business, how to launch products, how to leverage AI, how to make money with those products, because the next frontier for a lot of PMs, in my opinion, is not just to increase user value, is to also be able to capture part of that user value to drive business outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, I'm excited to really see that area of product blossom. We've been working on some AI features at Panobi, and it's pretty different. It's really fun to build and work on those features. It's cool. So our last question is one that is kind of our fun one. I'm just curious to see how people like you kind of think about the world and what you're really curious about. So if you could know any metric for any company, either one that's active presently or one from the past, which metric at what company would you choose to know, and why?
Well, to me, I've always been very curious about profitability of businesses, or EBITDA. And the reason why is because I bootstrapped my business for the first 8 years. And that is something that I care a lot about. And I know that now, given the market conditions, a lot of companies care as well. I wonder what's going to happen when market goes back to growth at all costs. And I think that's a fundamental metric for any business, no matter the industry. And regardless of the location as well, it's important to keep an eye on really, are users willing to pay for your product? And not only that, but are they able to cover the cost of your product?
Yeah, exactly. God, it'll be so interesting to see this class of companies that were started in, 2019, 2020, and some in 2021 who got huge valuations and big rounds, and sort of like, okay, now that the tides have really shifted underneath them, what is the reality going to look like? And are people going to retain these lessons too
I
over
hope
time?
so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I bet it has made you a much better business person to have bootstrapped for, almost a decade. That's really impressive.
Thank you. I think that teaches some financial discipline around
Yeah,
some business fundamentals, right? Because no matter what you're building, I believe that it's not just about building products that users love. That is table stakes. You need to build products that users love and are willing to pay for in a sustainable way, so these businesses can continue growing and serving more customers. Otherwise, at some point, investors are going to stop subsidizing these type of expenses.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then later consumers will stop subsidizing it too, as we've seen with things like Uber. Now that it's not really cheap, people are not taking as many rides. It's a big shift. Thank you so much for your time, Carlos. I really appreciate it. It's great to meet up with you in person-ish.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Likewise. Bye.